You're listening to The Journey with Ellie and Erin. Join us every week as we talk about all the things woo, wise and wonderful with our guests, and have the bigger, braver, bolder conversations that women should be having so that we can be the change the world needs. Welcome back to another episode of The Journey with Ellie and Erin. She's Ellie, I'm Erin. Nice to have you here. Nice to be back with you here, Ellie.
Nice to be here with you as well, my friend. It's been a wee while since I've seen your face, so it's always a pleasure.
Yeah. Well, you know, the pleasure is all mine. The hesitation was all yours when I said that. So, yeah, great. But you know, I'm excited about this particular episode of the show. We are talking to someone who you know extremely well and who I have never met, but heard lots about. And there's always something intimidating about that, I think, about knowing of someone but not knowing them.
And I think probably not helping that potential intimidation is the fact that it was my sister. So when we say that I know her quite well, I've known her for as long as she's been alive. She's my little baby sister. And you know how close I am to my sisters. They are incredibly special to me. There is a bond between the three of us that is not something I've experienced anywhere else in my life. So I totally get that you were nervous. And I loved the fact that before we jumped onto the recording, you totally admitted it and owned it. So I've got that in my pocket forever.
I totally wasn't trying to pretend by any stretch. I was like, I'm actually like shitting myself about meeting, because, you know, to be fair, Boo is the first person in your family that I've ever met. And it's a little bit like meeting the in-laws. And like, I remember the first time I did that with my in-laws, you know, with my wife, and that didn't go as planned. So like it was, you know, that's my last kind of experience of that moment. And so, yeah, it's, I'm not going to lie, it's intimidating meeting, you know, I hold you in very high esteem, bizarrely. And, you know, to be connected to people who are connected to you and who have helped shape the awesomeness that is my favorite business partner. Yeah, it was intimidating.
Partner, I think.
Or are you? As my kids would say.
Yeah, I think what I found really interesting, obviously I've known Boo for a really long time, but actually being able to speak to her in this space and hear her talk with such passion, such openness and such conviction about what she believes, it was really cool because she's my little sister, and me and my other sister Tor, we often talk about the fact we created a monster because we would do, you know, everything for her. We would pay for stuff. We just made life really easy. So in many ways, we always treated her like the baby, like she was the little one. And actually what was really cool about this conversation was the fact that it was really being able to witness her in her adulthood, in her, what she's achieved, all of the great things that she's done. And to know that, you know, there's a little part of me that is like incredibly just honoured and proud to have her, not a little part, big part of me, that to have her as my sister, but to really hear all of the things she's done and gone through. I mean, I haven't seen her in person now since 2018. So as much as we talk regularly, it's not quite the same. So it was a really nice opportunity to dive into the space and just, hear all of the stuff she's been up to, because she certainly keeps herself busy.
And without giving you a big head in any way, shape or form, which I know is challenging, she's a phenomenal woman, like out there in the world doing phenomenal things. And, you know, you probably had something to do with some of that. Let's be fair. I mean, I can't imagine growing up looking at you as the biggest sister and not being inspired to be greater just through association. So, it was really nice to sit and meet her on that level for the first time. It was a really interesting conversation. I think I mentioned the recording, and I'll say it again. I may have a new favorite Haig sister, because there's a lot about what Boo talks about and what she has done in her life that will resonate with a lot of people. And I love that she was, you know, in a typically British self-deprecating kind of a way, she was brutally honest about her journey and about where she's been and what she's done. And yeah, I mean, I could talk about it all day, but probably should just play the clip, right?
I reckon that's your job. So let's do this. Hopefully
right.
You enjoy it. Hopefully it makes some sort of sense and it doesn't get onto the high pitched level that when I talk to my sisters and the rest of the world can't hear. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy it. But it was heaps of fun to record, and it was lots of fun.
Yeah, enjoy.
Hello and welcome. Today we have got the absolute privilege of interviewing or chatting with somebody who I've known for quite a long time. In fact, I can't even remember how old you are. We're talking to my absolutely wonderful little sister. Or I should probably call her my...
One of your absolutely wonderful
one of my
sisters.
Absolutely wonderful sisters, but my youngest one. So we have got the fabulous Boo Forster-Haig. Former just Boo Haig, like I was Ellie Haig before. And she's here to talk about her journey and just share a little bit of insight into how she's got to where she has in many, many different places. So I was going to read her bio, but when she sent it over to me, it was about 400 pages long. So I've decided I'm going to do my own version of it. So Boo is the youngest daughter of Annie and Rod Haig. She was born in November 1986. Yeah. That's right, isn't it? Yeah, 86. And yeah, youngest of three daughters. So she's the youngest of the three of us sisters. And honestly, I have to say, I have been so privileged to be her big sister, to witness all of the amazing things she's done. She blows me away with her ability to just set her mind to do something and just do it. Like this is a woman who runs a marathon with no training. This is a woman who decides that, you know, when her husband is struggling doing some ultra marathon, that she'll just run the last, 20 miles with him just to help him out. This is a woman who, having never been on skis before, decided that she would do a cross-country ski thing for 5 days in order to raise money for military wives. I mean, the woman is just incredible and stupidly fit. We get photos and videos of her running, pulling tires, pushing children, managing dogs just on an average day. She blows me away. But I am absolutely, I'm impressed. I'm honoured. I'm privileged, and all of the amazing things to be able to talk to you and ask you all of the questions today that, I probably just have never been in the situation to, because we've probably been laughing too much. So we'll have to warn you that might happen today as well. But first up, Boo, welcome.
Hey.
I think that's probably the first thing to start. How are you doing? You are over in England whilst we record. Yeah. And is it It must be Halloween.
So it's Halloween tomorrow.
Yeah, is it?
So it's Sunday night. So last night before schools go back after half term. So everyone's out Halloweening. So I'm hoping no one knocks, because it's really creepy. So
yes. Is Glyn around at the moment, or is he away?
No, he's away. So
being a military. Yeah. So the other thing we need to
carry on.
Yeah, that's the other awesome thing, is that Boo has met her match in her fabulous husband Glyn, but he is in the army. He's a major in the army, and that means he's away a lot. And that's something else which is I have huge respect for, because you manage a very busy life a lot of the time on your own. So how's he doing? Where is he at the moment? Or is it all top secret and you can't tell us?
I never really know. I'm like, so yeah, he's done this, and I'm like, oh, don't tell anyone. He is away at the moment, just doing some practicing stuff of how to beat some baddies, is the technical term that I get told of what to do. Basically, they're practicing. They're not doing anything properly, I don't think.
Awesome. So he's not away.
But... No, but he's away at the moment in a different country. So, I'm home alone, which is why I'm hoping no one puts their face against the window. They walk past. Because I'm a proper coward. That was a very humbling introduction, Eleanor. That's very kind. And all learnt from my big sister. So for my 36, nearly 37 year. Cheers, Sarah.
Was that tour?
Like, the immediate.
Just checking.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
So yeah, 36, nearly 37, because we are November babies. So yeah. And nice to meet you, Erin. Hi.
Lots of...
Yeah, you too.
Yeah,
I noticed that Ellie said that it was a privilege to talk with you, but it will actually be a pleasure for me. I don't know about her, but it's a privilege, but it's also a pleasure because, you know, I kind of get to see now where the crazy comes from with Ellie, and it's a genetic thing. So that's good.
No, there is that. We come as a three, and we're all as crazy. We can all talk without even having to use words. We all can just actually communicate without having to say anything, which is a skill.
Yeah,
and you still all have many words, as far as I can tell.
A lot of words, and it always...
So, well done.
And the husbands just sit looking around.
Get very high pitched.
Like, what have we done? I was like, you picked it.
They sort of look at each other going, yeah, does anyone know what they're talking about?
No.
But anyway, let's get on with actually asking some questions. So I am reading your bio. It was, like I said, it was really interesting reading it from, you know, reading all the stuff I know you've done, but from a different perspective. And I think the first place that I'd kind of like to touch on, and I'm hoping that Erin's going to add to the questions, but I mean, I remember you being diagnosed with dyslexia and ADD at school. And I remember that it kind of made sense a little bit of why you'd probably struggled sort of academically, and just that I always remember you sort of struggled to take instruction, which, you know, there is an element of bloody-mindedness within that, but also that actually just, it was always a little bit of a challenge. But how did it feel getting that diagnosis, and how does that impact you even now? Is it something that you are still fully aware of, or have you learned to just kind of take it in your stride as you do most things?
It was really weird, actually, because at the time, I don't think I had, it sounds really rubbish, like the maturity to understand what it was, if you know what I mean. I knew the words, and I knew dyslexia, and it was very much a bandied around term at the time, dyslexia, and that was the thing that everybody focused on. But now, being a grown-up, I realise that the dyslexia side of things, I think, is just, I'm just a bit rubbish at, you know, maybe writing in a proper way, but actually I think it is more the ADD side of things that affects me the most, because it is that sequencing, and it is the processing information and getting it back out the same way, because it doesn't always come out the same way. Someone can tell me something and I try and explain it back straight away, and it's nowhere near what I was just told. So that's how it sort of goes in, blah, 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 and it comes out the other way. And I've really got to focus myself to really sort it out before I then say it. At school, we're in a very academic school, and I remember getting work reports for a piece of work that I'd worked on for hours, and I'm like, this isn't good. This isn't enough. And I was like, I'd get like C pluses in work reports, and I was like, but I've worked so hard. Like, my brain has concentrated so hard on that, and like nothing. I'm not getting any help about it. I got help for dyslexia, which now I know it didn't really help. I used to go and sit there, I'm like, this isn't really doing anything. This isn't helping. Just sitting, doing spelling. I can spell. That's fine. It's the concentration, and it's the understanding my thought processes that I've learned to deal with myself. So I went back to university for the second time. I did a fine art degree the first time, which was great because I was painting all day. I could be distracted. I could be all over the place. But then for my sports therapy degree, I had to really find new ways of dealing with it, because I was in a lecture where information was coming in, and I had to know it because there would be an exam on it. There wasn't really an exam in art. It was, can you paint? Yeah, cool. And all through school, I'd had extra time for exams, which helped because I could formulate my sort of words a bit better, but it couldn't help the information get out the right format in the right way. So by the time I got to, and I didn't do very well in my academic subjects in school, GCSEs or A-levels. And then when I got to my sports therapy degree, when I'd worked out that I need to hear it, see it, and say it, and visualize it as well. So I had a dictaphone with me. I sat at the front of the class so I couldn't be distracted. At school, I was always at the back because that was I remember someone was saying, were you the naughty one? No, I wasn't the naughty one. I was the distracted one. And I always got told off for being naughty. And I wasn't. I'm the most unnaughty person. I love a rule. I don't walk on the grass. I am very much like that kind of person. And I hate being told off. I hate it. But I was always told off for disrupting. And that wasn't me. And it made me feel really rubbish. And it made me feel really like, but that's not me. You don't get it. Whereas at uni, I didn't tell anybody. Nobody knew. I just sat there. And if someone was trying to come at me, I was just like, leave me alone. Like, I was a mature student at 25. So I could tell these 18-year-olds just, go away. So I'd listen to my lectures back. I'd go on runs. I'd drive because I commuted. I was married by that, like halfway through. So I'd commute up and down for about an hour and a half there and back each week. So I'd listen to my lectures again. I would, say it out loud while I was writing all my lectures. And for the exams, oh my gosh, I remember I had all the exam past papers and I just wrote. It killed me, nearly did kill me, because the concentration it took. Oh my God, my brain was going to explode. And I literally wrote out hours and hours worth of the same words over and over again. So in effect, I just learned it off by heart. It was a script, but it worked. And now I know it. And I never didn't know it, but it was how you had to present it in an academic way. And I think that was where I've always struggled. I'm not an academic, but I love learning. And I've always struggled through school. I hated that because it wasn't fun for me. Whereas now I can do it on my own terms. And I think that's, in a very long-winded way, explained maybe how I dealt with it, maybe. Does that make sense?
How does it does? How does that show up in other areas of your life? Like that, I imagine that the structure that school tries to force upon you is part of the problem with all of that. How has that shown up for you in other aspects of your life as you've kind of gone through? Because you've done some pretty incredible things. I noticed that a lot of them are physical in nature, which is there. Do you think that there's a relationship there between your desire to use your physical body rather than your mind for some of that stuff? But at the same time, I imagine your mind is still going while you're doing it.
It's really funny you say that, because I had a conversation with someone the other day about, she asked me when I'm running, what are you thinking about? And because she was like, I'm literally just listening to my breath. I can't breathe. What do you think about? Because we've gone together and I'm slightly fitter than her. But she was saying, I can't hear myself. I bet you have thoughts. And I was like, it's where I have all my ideas. And she just burst out laughing. She was like, of course you do. Of course it is. Of course it's that time. And it is. It's where I can not switch off from concentrating, but it's where I go down the rabbit hole. And I think perhaps maybe it's the one thing I can control is my physicality. And I think control when your brain is not in control is quite a good thing to get on top of. And like Els probably remembers, Mum would just send me out for a run, or my husband does the same. He's like, you're being really like, just go. And I have to go and do something because I haven't done it for a while, which, winter or jobs or whatever, I just need to go and do something. So we've got a rower now and a bike upstairs. So I can do that in the evenings now. It's just making things available. It's making sure you're able to get it out. Yeah. And it's not the hyperactive side of things, which a lot of people think that's the only thing, ADHD, and it's not. ADD is, it's really difficult. And it's only now, since it's been cool and trendy, that I've actually read it and thought, oh my God, that is, what? Okay, that makes sense. And now I can explain it because I never knew the words before. And that sounds really rubbish that now I've got the words there, I can say it. But talking to my husband, he's always like, what? Why are you doing it that way? So this is a really sort of crazy way of explaining how it works in my day-to-day life. If I'm cleaning the house, I will do half a job everywhere. Or like half a job there, quarter of a job there.
Half job Haig, isn't it?
See? Exactly.
You've always been.
And the thing is, I never get the chance to finish it. Whereas now, because But I would go around and he would start sort of finishing washing up or something. I'm like, no, don't, like, I'm doing it. And he's like, wait, what are you talking about? I was like, I will complete the cycle. Just give me a second, because I'll walk into a room and be like, I need to do this. I need to do this. Oh God, I need to do that. And that is how my brain works. And I'll eventually get round to it all, and it will look, well, for like 2 seconds. But that's how I can compartmentalize how to explain it to you. But yeah.
Yeah.
I think that, sorry,
Go.
Very quickly, that mention of the fact that being physical and actually having to do exercise is really, really important to you. And you're absolutely right. We always thought Boo needs to be exercised, just like a crazy dog does. She's just got to go and burn off that energy, and that helps her manage it. But at the same time, that need to be fit definitely had a little bit, played quite a part in how you felt about yourself in terms of body image through school and through, your 20s and stuff like that. And then obviously you had very big babies and went through some Diastasis Recti with the after postpartum. How has all of that kind of impacted you? How have you come to terms with how your body is now versus perhaps what it looked like before? And how does that feel now? That was a really badly worded question, but I'm hoping you'll be able to actually understand what I was talking about.
Yeah, I know you, so I know your words, so it's fine. I get you. So acceptance is a real thing, and I think language is a real thing that people need to understand, that it's not trying to look like you were before and be the way you were before, because you're not that person anymore. You are in a certain way. Yes, you are still, I am still Boo, I am still her, but I am not the body I was before. I'm not even the mind I was before, because you've now got responsibilities. You've now got something else happening, as well as your whole world has just changed. You now have children, and you're totally focused on them, whilst completely changing your physicality, not being able to do what you would normally do, like my coping, sort of not coping, but you know what I mean, my sort of enjoyment, my love, going out and being physical, that sounds weird, going out and doing any type of exercise, cycling, running, swimming. Me person, it was probably my second that I was more focused on the way I looked. Like Winnie, she was 9'9" and she was enormous, but I only had a little bit of diastasis recti with her and a little bit of skin. But then that shrunk down, and I was like, okay, cool, that's me, fine, I can do that, we can carry on. Second time round, she was only 9'3", but the bump was bigger from the off. It was lower. I think it was bigger. I kept walking into people sideways, like it just got in the way. She's brilliant, but she was massive. So when she came out, it didn't go back very quickly. It was out for a good, I'd probably say a couple of months. It was still, I've documented it, and it's quite bonkers to see it still. Like the day after, I'd seen my neighbour on the way to hospital, and the next day I saw him again. I think I was getting something out of the car. He was like, "Oh, I thought you were going to have your baby." I was like, "Had it, mate. Cheers, though." Like, thanks. And I think I really struggled more with the fact that I couldn't do exercise and the way that I wanted to do it, because everything was so baggy. I'm going to use the word baggy, because my tummy was really baggy and everything else was a little bit baggy. And the conversations I have with my husband, he's really like amazing. And he was like, "You've had 2 kids, give yourself a break. This is it." And I'm like, actually, you being really supportive is brilliant, because I don't feel any pressure that I have a baggy tummy. And even now, 3 years later, 3.5 years later, I've still got excess skin. I've still got gap. I still bloat like crazy, but I don't care. And I've got to that point now because the language has changed. I've told myself, this is you, accept it, because if you don't, you're not going to get over it, because it's not going to change. I'm not going to have a tummy tuck. The only thing is, if ever, like hernias and things, a couple of hernias, if they get bad, I'll have to do something about it. But actually, I'm managing it well. look at myself as like I'm athletic, but when I was younger, I was like, yeah, like, you know, looking athletic. I don't mind now. Like, it's not a thing. I'm not in my 20s. I'm 36-year-old mother who wants to inspire women to not care about it. Like, it's not a thing. Like, you've had kids, enjoy being with them, and enjoy, if you want to get a good physicality back, you can only do that by accepting your new body and your new ability. I think it's your new ability and after Winnie, I got a PB on my 10K. It doesn't matter. Like, I've done this skiing thing. That's why I did the skiing as well. We'll talk about that later, I think. Because I wanted people to understand that it doesn't stop you moving on and doing cool stuff. It doesn't mean that, like, my abs are completely not attached anymore to each other, but I can still, you know, pull a tire and it's not like Alien. Stuff doesn't explode out. Like, I've put the work in, because I've got that strength back, but it doesn't look the same and it doesn't react the same as it did before. So now in my job, and I'm treating people postpartum, postnatally, I've got a couple of women who've got real body image issues, and I'm trying to explain to them in this really weird, crazy way that change the way you're talking to yourself, about yourself, to other people as well. Because the more you can explain to other people about you and how you feel about your body, then they'll come to understand their body better as well, and maybe understand the way you're coming from, and then the message will spread. I want people to love it, because no matter how you've done it, like, even if you haven't had, like, physically had the children, you've got kids, like, you will change, because stuff gets involved in different ways. Like, you can't always do the things that you wanted to before. So think of your body as you're moving on. Each year it's a new you, and not in a January, new you, new me. It's not. You're I hate that so much. And it's just, changing the narrative on your own body. And I have got through all my changes by looking at it as well. And I think that's it. Like, it sounds really weird. Like, feeling it, touching your tummy, touching the skin. My tummy button used to be in.
That's such a great, I love that you mentioned that, actually, because I felt a bit like that with my C-section scar. Like, it's definitely changed, like, the way my tummy looks. And even if I lost all the weight in the world, I think it would probably still, there would still be a little bit of a shelf, I think they call it. And it was really hard to, like, accept that in many ways, but by just being able to touch it and knowing that it's actually part of me, and that's where my babies came from, it's okay. But for a really long time, I struggled with that. So I think it's really interesting that you mentioned that that's a really important part of the process. And I think women just generally are a bit crap at that. We just, whether we don't make time, or there's just so much stigma about the way we should look, the way we should feel, all of the stuff, that we don't actually take that time to really get to know our bodies properly. And it's so important so that you can acknowledge change. Even, we should all be doing breast checks to make sure that there's no lumps and bumps that are going missed. And yet we don't necessarily do that. How do you help women become, who have got really bad body issues, who do feel really uncomfortable in their own skin? How do you help them be able to be a bit more understanding? Obviously there's the narrative, but what other things would you say helps?
So I think, because I've gone through it, that is helpful for them, because I'm out the other side. Some of them are quite early on postpartum wise, and I'm hoping it's going to change, and I'm thinking it's going to change, and the skin's going to go, or everything's going to go back to normal. And I think it's part of their acceptance, I suppose, to see. It's all like, I'm like, do you want to see mine? And it sounds really weird, but I'm like, I'm happy to show people. And I put it on my Instagram and stuff, because I want not only women, I want men to understand. Because you've got to normalize
I think that's
baby bodies, like women, like it drives me mad that men are like, oh, because then the girls, I've had a friend of mine, she what did she say? She was like, oh, I don't think I'll get your tummy. And I was like, why? It doesn't matter. Like, if you do, you do. You've had a kid. Like, get a grip, for goodness sake. Someone was like, oh, something that happened to you. It's like, it's not a bad thing. I do not think of it as a bad thing. And like not showing pictures, but like actively showing people. But my friend, like my male friends who have seen my photos, I'm like, here, look at me, here you go. They are interested in it. And like our cousins, one of our cousins, he was like, that's really interesting. And I showed him this other profile of this lady who does a lot of body image stuff. And he was like, oh, that's fascinating, because people don't know what real bodies look like. Nobody knows in a magazine, online, and it's going to go back to the old-fashioned thing of, yes, everything's edited, but nobody knows what a real, like, unless you're on the beach, and even then people are then photographed and doctored, unless you're sat on the beach looking around at everybody's bodies, nobody knows what real bodies look like and what they're supposed to know. They're not supposed to look anyway. And it really winds me up that especially postnatally, when these women, going back to what your question, the only way I can help them is explain what happened to me and say, the acceptance has got to come. Obviously, I'm not like, first time, acceptance. It's nurturing, it's understanding, it's listening to their worries, listening to their concerns, because they're all different. Some are embarrassed in front of, the mirror, in front of children, or children grabbing the skin. It's everything. So I sort of take it piece by piece, peel it back a little bit and say, actually, where is this coming from? Is it coming externally or is it coming from internally? And actually, most of the time, it's internally, thinking what other people are thinking. Humans, as you probably both know, everyone's pretty much self-obsessed in life, generally. So when you're on the beach, no one's looking at you. Nobody cares what you look like. All they're caring about is where your blooming top is, or, what you look like lying down, just in case someone's looking at you. So once you realise that as well, it's great, because the pressure's off, and it's just trying to give people that understanding of, if you don't worry or mind about it, nobody else will, or you don't mind that they do, kind of thing, if that makes sense as well. Very convoluted.
Did you have something there, Ellie, or no?
No, I didn't.
You looked like you were going to say something, but
no, I wasn't. I was actually just having a real moment of, wow, my sister knows heaps.
There's two things that came up for me while you were talking about that, and the first one is that it sounds a little bit like what you're actually helping women with is learning how to mother themselves a little bit and nurture themselves through the process of becoming a mum, and what their identity is as an individual postpartum, which I love, because I haven't personally given birth, but my wife has given birth to 2 children, and her identity and her self-acceptance and her body image and all of those things changed. And the ironic thing for me, and this is the second thing that came up, is often we hear women talking about, oh, my husband doesn't like my body, or all those sorts of things after they've had babies. I'm like, there is nothing sexier to me than the fact that when I look at my wife, I can see that she birthed our children. Like, I can see that in her, and I think that's so hot, because nobody else has that.
Yours.
No one else. And so that would always be my message, right? Like that, I'm like, nobody gets to see that she had our children in the way that I get to see that. And so it's really interesting for me when people do say, I don't have a supportive partner or whatever, because I'm like, but how can they not be like completely turned on by the fact that that's the mother of their children? Yeah. Like, that's awesome.
No, I love that. I love that you can say that. Yeah,
so, maybe that's the difference between women and men. I don't know.
I think that's brilliant that you say that, because that, hopefully, that is most men and women who have seen their partner do that, because that's yours. Like that's so cool. I love that. Like, that's and that's the thing. And mothering women through motherhood. And I think it's hard to read it in a book and explain it to someone, because the feelings and the emotions that you go through when your whole body changes, because especially immediately postpartum, because you've got a whole load of hormones cracking on in there, which brain is like, whoa, what's going on here? I don't know how to deal with this. Everything just is the devil. I remember being quite afterwards, I was like, everything's so annoying. And I went for a walk and I was like, actually, no, it's not. Everything's fine. It was just, and again, maybe that was because I went for a walk. Maybe that was me debugging my brain kind of thing. Because I was like, actually, I can do this. But it's that the hormones are crazy. Your body's changed. You've got something that needs you constantly. You haven't got a chance to be yourself again. And it is really tough, because you're like, who am I? I don't look like me. I don't sound like me because I'm talking crazy. But actually going through that and peeling back the layers, it's fascinating to find out, actually, wow, like I'm cool. Like, I'm this person now. And actually what I've been through has made me this person. And I am now the same person, but with superpowers. Is what I think it is.
Yeah, it's so true. It's that transformation, isn't it? As we go from being, growing the baby, having the child, and then dealing with the aftermath of giving birth, and then just the challenge of having children. And nobody really talks about this until you have children. Possibly when you're pregnant, a few well-meaning friends might sort of give you a knowing look, and that you sort of, once you have them, you realize what that look was all about. It was welcome to the club. It's really, really fucking hard. But you don't really know it until you get there. But then once you're there, there's so much expectation that you have to be able to just get on and deal with it. And that if you don't, you're failing, or you've let yourself down, or you've let other people down. There's so much pressure, not just that we put on ourselves, but from society. And I love the fact that, there are women who are lucky enough to be working with you and having that support. And we provide a very similar sort of thing, but much more in that sort of mental and emotional and sort of spiritual space. So between us, we cover them all, which is excellent.
Play your stuff in the background.
Yes, do this.
It's fine.
Yeah, absolutely do that.
No,
that's the answer. But it's super cool that it's happening. And I think what I also love about you is that you do walk the talk. So actually you do follow with what you subscribe to people. You say, you've got to really enjoy your body. You've got to change the way you talk about it. And you do talk really positively. Like I said, I remember you being very body, not obsessed, but being very, wanting to look a certain way, and hearing you talk now about how much you accept, and you still look incredible. I just am blown away by you're just general amazingness, full stop, but you still look incredible, but you can completely own, what has changed. And I think that's a really important part of the journey, is we don't want to be the same as we were at 18. We don't want to be the same as that we were in our 20s. Every decade and every day brings us a new experience. It changes who we are. We're always evolving. So to have a fixed concept of who we are is actually you're just going to constantly be feeling like you're letting yourself down. Whereas if you could be open to the idea that anything's possible and that everything is changing, that just feels like it's a much fresher and easier place to live than being stuck in the constraints that so often we tie ourselves up with before society even gets involved. So yeah, I love what you're doing there. Now we have got to talk about your trip across
Norway,
your ski trip, so we never skied as children, because our dad is quite tall, and his theory was that his legs were too long and he would be more likely to break them and injure himself. So that was the reason we were given for never skiing as children.
Literally every holiday.
And golf also, yeah. He had to go and play golf, which was always, far more important. So, they worked it out nicely. But what on earth made you decide to do it? And how did you do it? Quite simply, because I know you, and whilst you are very fit and very able to do lots of things, you're also relatively what's the best word?
Gangly.
Uncoordinated sometimes, would that be fair? Gangly, that's the one. There's lots of limbs. This is a girl who will not stand on the outside of a photo if there's the three of us, which she should, because if we stand in height order, she should always be on the outside. She's like, I don't know what to do with my arm. It's like, just leave it. Like, just leave it where it normally is, you weirdo. Just stop. But she's not capable of doing it. So tell me, how did this gangly legs and arms, how did you manage to stand up on skis and get across it? But, what was the motivation for doing it?
What was it, first and foremost? Can we introduce it properly?
Sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
What did you do, Boo, and why?
Thanks, Erin. Bringing us back to not that. So
yeah.
To the point.
Get to that point, Ellie.
I am part of a crew called Forces Wives Challenge, and it unites military wives through adventure and challenge. This very clever, wonderful woman, Heather, she was ex-army, and she realised life on the outside, actually, there isn't the ability to come together as a community to do cool adventure stuff, which normally bonds people and get sort of a great shared experience. So she created this community, which is fantastic, and every 2 years we try and do this really like a big expedition. So they climbed the tallest volcano in Chile. I can't remember the year that was, 2018 I think, because I couldn't go because the chat was on tour, and I was like, damn it. So the next one, so that's coming on to your question, why did I do it? Because they've been on my radar for a while of these big challenges, and then over lockdown, so Glinda was away for the first one, and I think I had Winnie. Was I pregnant? I can't remember. Doesn't matter. Anyway, then they've been doing lots of virtual challenges over COVID, so again on their radar, sort of just ticking away, just liking the idea of the community, learning about it a little bit more, and then all of a sudden the picture came up of complete whiteout and just, I can't remember how many bodies, about 4 or 5 skiers, like with sort of packs on, just like trudging through the snow. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've never done that. That looks really cool. I want to do that. How do I do that?
Literally.
Because I'll tell you why as well. It wasn't downhill skiing. If it was downhill, there's absolutely no chance. But because it was cross country, I was like, that looks so cool. I want to do that. But it does turn out that I'm not very good at going downhill. And I will tell Dad that it is because of our long legs. So the first day, you have to stand on these skis. So basically, it's in Norway, Hardangervidda. We did follow in the footsteps of these incredibly brave Norwegians sent to sabotage Hitler's attempt to blow up, to create an atomic bomb. So these is a really long story, but they're just the most brilliant heroes. They left Norway when Nazis invaded. They ran away to Britain. The British trained them up, sent them back to Norway because they knew how to cope in the hostile environment of the widest and open and highest plateau of Norway. And they then skied their way all the way along this Hardangervidda, which is frozen lakes, pretty much, this massive wide open expanse of 3,000 feet above sea level, big frozen lakes, really windy and cold. Luckily we had slightly less wind and snow, but they went all the way to this amazing place called Vemork, where was the heavy water plant. So heavy water, lots of physics stuff, basically helps create an atomic bomb.
It's like, I'm really impressed with how sciencey you're getting here, Boo. Like, seriously. Probably ought to put a little disclaimer that, I mean, it's probably mainly true.
Go and Google it, because it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. So their first, I would go into it. Ask me to go into it. So the first guys were sent to find a landing strip for gliders for British Army to come in, and then they would attack the Nazi power plant. Then that unfortunately ended in tragedy when the gliders crashed. So then a new plan had to be formed. 3 months later, them living off in sort of the wilderness and in huts on their own, completely malnutritioned. I'm really not giving them their due here. They're incredible people. They were malnourished, and they had to rebuild their whole lives ready to attack again. So more people were sent. That's terrible. And they then attacked the heavy water plant and blew up the capsules that were creating it, and ran away without spilling any bloodshed, and they escaped. So it was one of the bravest, most resilient operations in the war that nobody really knows about. So if I could say that again in a more cohesive way, it would be fantastic, but that wouldn't be me telling you the story. So Google it. Here is a telemark, Norway, Hardangervidda. Go and Google it. It's fascinating. Anyway, the reason the Forces Wise Challenge took it up was because the idea of resilience, it was a military, it was an expedition of remembrance. It was just the most phenomenal trip on all levels. It was physical, and it was also because of the military connection. We were raising money for the War Widows Association, who are amazing charity. So on all levels, I wanted to be involved. So I had to make it work, basically. And someone asked me in an interview a couple of days before I went, she was like, what if you can't ski? And I was like, that's not an option. Of course I've got to be able to ski. Of course I've got to be able to learn. Like, are you mad? Like, that's not one bit I'm worried about at all, because that bit has to happen. If that bit doesn't happen, then there's not that other thing. It's just going to happen. So yeah, I got there and I put these skis on. I was like, oh, they're a bit slippy. Blimey. And I thought we had 6 days to learn. We had 2.5 days on skis, and it wasn't even full days. It was like from 9 till 3 the first day with the lunch, and then 9 till I think it was about 11 till 3 the next day. And then we had like half a day the next day. I was like, guys, I need more time. When are we practicing with the polk? Like, they're like, oh no, you'll do that there. I'm like, what? Like, it's really a heavy 40 kilogram, 50 kilogram sledge that I'm pulling across the ice. I need to practice first. Like, nah, you'll be fine. So the first day we literally stood on these skis, and I was Bambi completely. So what I've learned with my body and my physicality is that your center of gravity is quite based on where your legs are in relation to your body. And I can work out where everyone else was just getting it. So a lot of people have done down ski, hill skiing, and 4 of us hadn't ever at all been on skis. And Jen, awesome, but she is tiny, and she is all in proportion, beautifully in proportion, tiny little, not little, but she is. And she was like bam, 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 skiing like so gracefully, and just got it, and looked like the shape that they were supposed to be, like when you watch cross-country skiers. And then I watched a video of me, and I was like the whole way. I was like, what's going on? And it's because my legs were here. My body, you can't see, but I've got quite a short body. And every time I took a ski forward, my leg, like, it went up my body into, like, I don't know, it just set me off in a really weird angle. So I had to like bend your knees. I was like, I am. They're like, get lower. I was like, I can't. This is me. So that was quite entertaining, of trying to work out my leg to body long arm ratio, because trying to find poles as well, because the poles are related to your body height, but actually the pole, like my arm length, I just couldn't get it right, because my arms are quite long as well there, and you can't really see. But and Ellie will explain albatross later. Anyway, the next day we had to put our 10 kilogram rucksacks on, and were then told to go downhill. And I've never gone downhill. And they're like, you'll be fine. Be fine. I was like, no, because there's a ditch at the bottom. Like, come on. They're like, no, but if you look where you want to go, you'll go that way. I was like, okay, I trust you. I've trusted you the whole process from start. Like, this guy who's been there the whole way through. Okay, I trust you. Here I am, looking. No, straight in the ditch. I was like, oh, that really hurt. Oh, God. They're like, what were you doing? I was looking where I was going. They're like, you've got to move your feet. I was like, guys, I genuinely have never done this before. Tell me what I need to do, where I need to angle stuff, what I need to do, because this is not happening. I cannot turn corners. And to this day, I've done it. I've been out there. I've come back alive, didn't fall over many times. I still can't turn corners, and I'm terrible at going downhill. So, and also, I don't know what this is to do with. I can't turn right. I've never been able to turn right anyway, because I remember in one of my graduations, I had to go up the steps and turn to the right. And that was my biggest fear, of not knowing which way to put my feet to get onto the stage, than actually like getting like in front of all the people. Oh my God. It turns out on skis, it's the same. I can't go round to the right. So, what was the question?
You do make me chuckle. I've no idea, but I'm just reveling in listening to you tell a story that's it's truly wonderful. I think just to finish off, because we could do this for hours. What? Like,
thanks.
No. It's wonderful.
Let's do it for hours.
We'll stop recording and then we can carry on.
Endlessly entertaining.
But what do you want your girls to, you're like me, you have 2 young daughters. How do you want to inspire them? What is your message for them, or for people who have daughters? How do we make sure that they can do the stuff and feel confident enough to do what they want?
So
how can we lead by example?
Lead by example. I think you just be who you are. And I think however you react in situations, they will see that. And so it's really interesting you say that, because actually I am looking at them and thinking, actually, what do I want them to get from me? So actually I'm watching them and actually learning from them to then learn how to be me as well. It's fascinating, because it's leading by example, but also seeing what kind of people they are and growing into. Like, she's winning 6 and hers is nearly 4, but they're 3 months behind you. Your 2, they're only about 3 months each, aren't they? Yeah. And I think the way that they're evolving is changing me, because then I think part of it is to do with the physicality that we were talking about earlier. I'm being more confident as a person because I'm seeing their confidence in me. And I love it that they are like, I was like, I want to do stuff with them. I want to go away and like do really cool stuff with them.
They genuinely think you're cool, don't they? They think you're really super cool
in the world. And actually, no, Holly retracted that. No, so Holly, one of my best friends, she thought I was cool. The first day she arrived in our school, I held back because everyone rushed to her. And I was like, I'm just going to give her time. Just going to, don't want to bombard. She thought I was cool. And then she found out that I'm not, and we're best friends. So it is that sort of that cool thing. Not cool. I want them to come on. I want to challenge them, and I want to challenge their expectations of themselves. So the only way that I can show them that is to do that myself. And I think I haven't been through a lot, but I've been through lots of different situations where I've had to learn a lot about myself. And I actively now put myself in situations to learn about myself. And I think that's what's changed. And that's what I will tell my children to do, because boarding school, whole other thing, that was the best thing for me. Tricky, but oh my goodness, wow, what a change, what a difference it made. It put me in situations that with people who I would never have met before. I would never have known how to deal with people. I would never have known how to deal with any situation. Went to university, dealt with things. And now I've married a military sort of chap. I love this life because it is so people orientated. And I've realized that is what I'm about. I'm very people centric. I'm very open to the problem is I'm too total rapport because I'm very much involved and share too much maybe too early with people. But that's what I love about meeting new people all the time is that talk to everybody. By talking, that's the dog, you can hear him snorting. I think you need to, what I would say to them is talk to everybody, go and play with, it sounds like, we had this discussion this evening actually, as I was putting her to bed. She was like, but I don't like playing that game. I was like, you don't have to play that game. You don't have to play with the people who are in your class. Play with people who want to play the game that you want to play, or use your imagination. If they want to play with your game, that's fantastic. I've got friends who are younger than me, older than me, much older than me. I love it because everyone's so interesting. So put yourself in situations where you have to meet new people until you get comfortable in that situation, if that makes sense.
Perfect.
So wise.
Very, very wise. Very wise.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, are you sure you're related to Ellie?
No, but
Just kidding.
Yeah, go.
Now, normally we ask random questions,
Oh.
but I'm not going to do that
Sorry.
today because I think we've had some random moments enough. But no, I think they came from Ellie. But Ellie, do you want to sum up? I mean, this is kind of your.
How do I sum up?
Your sister, so.
It is. I think everybody listening, if you've made it this far, you have had an absolute snapshot into the fabulousness that is Boo. She's got a unique take on life, and I mean that in only a positive way. And I think hearing you sum up that you actively put yourself in situations to meet new people, to try new things, I think is just an inspiration and something that we could all be doing more of. And I absolutely agree that you have to keep doing it until it becomes comfortable. And then you find the next thing that makes you feel uncomfortable and you just keep doing that and you live by that. And I'm just honoured and proud to be your sister and have loved hearing you jibber jabber about all of the things. It's been awesome. There's been some absolute.
Come out. No, I don't.
Don't apologise.
No, you don't.
I mean,
no, you don't.
you are sincerely a badass, and I may have a new favourite Haig sister. So, yeah. Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe. Is she the normal one? Wait.
It's because I'm the youngest of three, of you two. And you gave me that confidence and that ability to be that unique person that I've apparently become. But it is watching you guys and learning. So this is a not self-appreciation, but mutual appreciation society. But yeah.
Yeah.
Love that.
Enough of the love fest. On that charming note,
I'm a grown up. I'm sorry. Thank you
we're going to say thank you so much. Thank you. And Ellie, is there anything else you want to say?
Just a massive thank you and nice to see your face.
Yeah, nice to meet you. All right, and we will be back next week with a new episode and someone different.